Welcome to week 9 of the Lifelong Rivals Sports Podcast. I'm Zach Kaufman here with Ryan D'Amico.
I'll let Zach take things from here on out for our final thoughts segment. As always, that's how we wrap things up here on our show with our final thoughts segment. So, Zach, take it away.
Our final thoughts here for the week are dealing with the NBA as we move into the start of that season. This is an exciting time in sports. We've been talking college football. That's in full swing right now. We've been talking NFL. That's been going well here. Continues moving on. The NBA is starting tonight on Tuesday night as we're hosting this podcast. Baseball playoffs are going on. There's plenty for sports fans to enjoy at this time of the year. But I do want to get to the NBA here as it starts. There's some exciting storylines. Unfortunately, just had some breaking news in the first games of the season so far. Gordon Hayward, the big acquisition for the Celtics, was actually taken off on a stretcher. He had a really bad ankle injury. So that's going to really hurt them. Fortunately for that team, they built their roster pretty well, that they are very deep. They're most likely going to have Jason Tatum, the number 3 overall pick, who's going to fill in and get some of that extra action. They'll probably have Jaylen Brown, who last year was the number 3 pick, who's going to get some more time while Marcus Smart plays more of the shooting guard position. So they'll be able to move some pieces around and still be okay for now to deal with that. But that really hurts to start the season for one of the teams. I was excited to see how they do after after the additions of Gordon Hayward in the offseason and Kyrie Irving. So they were one of my top teams to keep an eye on. And then throughout the East, the Cavaliers continue to be at the top. I'm another team. They made the trade with the Celtics. I'm interested. Isaiah Thomas is one of my favorite players I've ever seen. He's my favorite since Allen Iverson, who's a very comparable player to how he plays with that energy, being a smaller player, being a scorer with his kind of swagger and confidence. Love watching him play. I'm interested to see how he does alongside someone like LeBron James. And also, one of the lesser known players that came in that trade that I absolutely love is Jay Crowder. We'll be able to see him a lot now on some of these national TV games, but he just does a little bit of everything. He's a fantastic defensive player. He's able to score the ball. He's a good rebounder. He's just an all-around player that I absolutely love to watch. I think he's a great fit on this Cavs team, and I'm excited to see what that ends up looking with both of those teams who finished number 1 and number 2 last year in this conference, how they'll look after making a trade with each other, where in most sports, you don't see anything like that with some major rivals at the top of their game making a trade. What did you think about that trade as we head into the season?
Yeah, you and I talked about it when it happened, and I liked it for the standpoint of Cleveland, adding some really nice pieces to an already good roster. And it's funny, I'll give an update here. Obviously, people are going to listen to this after, but just throwing this out to you, Cleveland's up 54-38 at halftime in that opening night game. LeBron leads all scorers with 14 points. Jay Crowder, your boy, is actually second with 11. Boston, Jaylen Brown has 12. Kyrie only has 9. Does have 5 assists though. So the Hayward injury there is going to hurt. But yeah, Cleveland's obviously the team to beat in the East, and then obviously Golden State's still the team to beat out West. When it comes to the NBA, Zach, outside of the Sixers, the team that I'm kind of intrigued with, and just am interested to see how things are going to pan out and how things are going to, if things are going to gel, is out there in Houston. OKC with Russell Westbrook out there, and then Carmelo Anthony going there. I mean, and Paul George there as well. I mean, it's conceivably to think that Paul George is the number 3 option there. Has Carmelo Anthony ever at his point in his life been a number 3 option? So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that. OKC to me is one of the more interesting teams in the NBA. So that's what I really look forward to in this season. Sixers number 1, and then I'll have my eye on OKC the entire year to see how that whole thing plays out.
That's interesting to me because you accidentally brought up a team that I like a little bit better than that OKC team with the Houston Rockets. Yeah. And right. I really like what they've done with Chris Paul. He's just such a great all-around point guard. They've got James Harden there. They've got a scorer off the bench in Eric Gordon, which I think is one of the big things Oklahoma City lacks, that they don't really have much excitement at all on their bench. It's very, very top-heavy team. I like some of the fits there where Russell Westbrook, incredible energy, such a fun player to watch. He's fantastic. Paul George plays both ends of the court. He's a good defender. He's a good scorer, very good offensive player. Carmelo Anthony, very one-dimensional. He's an incredible scorer but doesn't do much else. But then to offset that, they have someone like Andre Robertson, who he's a great defender, doesn't do much else beyond that. So I like that fit there. Steven Adams, he's a solid big man there. He's going to be the starter. But really looking through the depth, I think that's what's really going to hurt Oklahoma City, especially when it comes to the playoffs. Every year we see teams that have someone like a Danny Green for the Spurs in the past or Patty Mills. They always have someone really step up in the playoffs and have some big games for them. And I don't see anybody on Oklahoma City being able to do that. They're very top heavy and they'll be fun to watch, but I don't see them being able to make a strong run. I think the Rockets will stay ahead of them, and I still like the Spurs to stay ahead of them, as well as obviously the Warriors, who I think are going to be the top team throughout this season.
Is it a foregone conclusion? This is the last thing I'll say. Is it a foregone conclusion that we see Warriors Cavs again, in your opinion?
I feel very confident in the Warriors side of it. The Gordon Hayward injury, that's definitely going to hurt Boston. I love what they've done, how they've built their team, and I'd love to see them be able to make a run for it. But as of right now, I am expecting the Cavs to be in it from the East. I think depending on Isaiah Thomas' injury, if he's going to be out significantly or if he re-injures himself there, that could it's been a hip injury that he's been struggling with, but that's something that could affect the Cavs. But they still have great pieces to really carry them, and they have a full roster of depth as well. They've got Tristan Thompson off the bench, great rebounder, great defender. They've got Jeff Green, who's been a number 2 option, number 3 option on other teams. He's now coming off the bench. They have J.R. Smith, who's one of those guys that can get incredibly hot when he's knocking down shots. He can also be incredibly down when he's missing everything. They brought in Dwayne Wade there. They've got Derrick Rose off the bench. This is some good depth, even though it's some older players. That's going to be big, like I mentioned, when it comes playoff time. And a couple teams I wanted to mention before we close out that are exciting. You brought up the Sixers. I grew up a Sixers fan. Allen Iverson got me addicted to basketball. Watching him, he's such an incredible player. And the Sixers are finally, after years and years and years of rebuilding, they're in a great position here after drafting Markelle Fultz. They've got They've got Ben Simmons ready to go. Dario Saric had some good moments last year, especially towards the end of the season. They're going to rely on those guys. Joel Embiid, fantastic player as long as he can stay healthy. They've got someone like Rashawn Holmes that's coming off the bench. He'll start out the season injured, but they've got depth. They brought in J.J. Redick as a shooter. They haven't had a shooter since Kyle Korver, I believe. They have a lot of good players there. And another guy I'm intrigued at, who I thought was a good signing last year and ended up only playing 3 games, but it's been announced that he's going to be their starter, Jared Bayless. Keep an eye out for him. He's just a solid point guard. He's a good shooter. He's going to get some good playing time. I don't think he's going to be anything incredible, but I think he goes well with that team, that he'll be able to play off the ball, get some shots, and do some nice things and surprise some people that might even be Sixers fans.
Yeah, it's exciting times around here in Philly with Sixers basketball again, and it's been a long time coming. I mean, we've endured a lot of rough seasons and a lot, the whole tanking thing and Sam Hinkie and whatnot. So it's exciting to finally have a team that people can really get excited about. And look, they're going to be exciting when all these guys are on the floor at one time. They're going to be one of the more exciting teams to watch in the league. So I'm looking forward to it.
Last thing I'm going to mention, guy I'm very excited about. This is a pretty good rookie class that just came in, but my prediction right now for Rookie of the Year is Dallas Mavericks starting point guard now, Dennis Smith Jr., very talented player. He's in a great situation there in Dallas, they've still got Dirk Nowitzki, but they're trying to rebuild at the same time, kind of as they're still somewhat competitive. And he's in a great position to get lots of playing time. He's got a future Hall of Famer alongside him with Dirk. I really think he's going to take Rookie of the Year, even ahead of some of the higher picks like Lonzo Ball, like Markelle Fultz, who might end up having better careers. But I think that is my selection for our Rookie of the Year here.
Yeah, Dennis Smith Jr. out of NC State. I remember him, in the ACC, and the ACC gets a lot of pub in college basketball as one of the better conferences. So, I remember watching him, and he got a lot of buildup kind of late in the season as we got into the offseason and into the combine and mock drafts and whatnot. He really was a player that shot up draft boards and people really were fond of. So it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out in Dallas, and he's definitely something I heard though from quote unquote experts talking about him, was he could come in and contribute right away, and it sounds like that's what they're going to ask him to do in Dallas. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he does, and he does it well in Dallas, and he wins Rookie Year. I really wouldn't be surprised. So because it sounds like Fultz is going to be kind of rotated in to start, and Lonzo Ball, the jury's still out on him, in my opinion. I'm not that high on him, but I kind of like where your head's at there, Zach.
I do like Lonzo Ball. I think he'll have success. I actually drafted him in one of my really deep fantasy leagues. It's a 20-team league with 18 roster spots, and I'm excited to have him. I think he'll still have success. They have a lot more talent on that Lakers team, a lot of young talent, that I think early on it'll get spread out. He'll be more of a distributor, and as he works on some of that scoring and maybe some of his mechanics with shooting, he's got a little bit of a goofy form. It'll be interesting to see if he's someone that tries to adjust that, or if he'll just if his coaches will kind of accept it as is and just let him play that out. But I think he'll have a better overall career than Dennis Smith Jr., but I think he won't quite have the same caliber of a rookie season.
I gotcha. No, totally. I totally understand where you're coming from there, for sure.
So as I mentioned, exciting times here for sports fans. Enjoy the baseball playoffs. Enjoy the start of the NBA here. Still got NFL and college football going on. Should be great times. So this is our sign out here. Enjoy your week. Thank you so much for listening to the Lifelong Rivals Sports Podcast. We really appreciate it. We've changed some things up based on some of the feedback we've received, so we'd love to continue hearing your feedback. As we continue to build this platform with our podcast, it's very helpful to us if you can share it with the people you know that you think would be interested. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a great week.